It's a very close bird. It's off! Go away!
If anyone was watching that, seeing you open your window and shout at the birds on the roof.
I hope there wasn't a person walking down there, because then...
They're like, what?
Excuse me. Just walking in the... This time in history that you and I are living in is quite different from anything any one of us have probably ever lived through before, right? The fact that everything is uncertain really came up and hit us in the face in quite a violent way almost. The funny thing is, everything has actually always been uncertain when you think about it. I mean, who of us really knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Of course, we plan and we have patterns for stuff in our lives and so on. But none of us knows and ever knew what was going to happen the next day. Actually, the way I see it, you and I lived in an illusion of certainty. The question is, how do you and I stay sane in this time where it seems like everything is uncertain? How do we keep on going, dreaming, planning and adjusting? How can you and I still work towards a better future, towards constantly becoming a better version of ourselves, so that we can still plan where we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years from now? I must tell you that I personally have been through quite a tough moment of reflection recently, thinking about my life and where I'm heading now that so many things have changed. Maybe you can relate. But the conclusion that I arrived at is I have to stay true to myself. I have to allow the things that excite me, that motivate me, that builds me up, to remain my focus. We have to keep going, people. That's really the only choice that we have. Because the alternative is to stop living. And I'm not prepared to do that. So where do we start? How do you and I go about finding ourselves again now that so many things have changed? My name is Johan Bester, and I would like to tell you about 3 things that I have arrived at and that I'm using to recenter myself. Maybe it can help you too. So the first thing is getting back to your first love. So I realized that I have to get back to my first love, to that thing that fills my emotional tank, that builds me up, that excites me. And for me, the thing that made me feel alive, powerful and effective since I was a little boy was getting up in front of other people. Just give me a stage and a room full of people and I'm in my element. This obviously presents a dilemma in the year 2021, right? Large rooms filled with lots of people is just not really happening right now. And who knows when it will happen again. So how do I solve this dilemma of doing the thing that I know is my first love? I'm sure you can already think what my answer is going to be. The internet! Of course. I mean, the World Wide Web actually makes it possible for me to now have a potential audience of thousands, tens of thousands, even millions. The question is, how do I present myself in a way that is still true to who I am? I have to figure out through this new medium, on this new platform, to still make people really hear and feel what I'm trying to say. So this is my challenge. But it is a challenge that I must and I will overcome. The point is that I cannot be anything or anybody else than who I truly am. And the fact that I cannot currently get that energy from a live audience doesn't mean that I cannot communicate to still a large audience in a very effective and authentic way. I just have to keep trying new and different ways to see what works best. As with anything in life, it is a journey. So that's my first point, right? Finding my first love again. And then the second point that I've arrived at that really helps me in this time is keep up the energy. So I recently listened to a fantastic teaching on the management of our energy by world-renowned leadership coach Craig Groeschel. So he explained how really there are 4 types of energy. And that is physical energy, emotional energy, creative/mental energy, and spiritual energy. He then went on to beautifully illustrate that every task that you and I have to do during our day or during our week requires not only a different amount of energy, but also a different type of energy. So for me and you, learning exactly which form or type of energy is needed for which task is very important. For example, if I have to have a really tough conversation with an employee, or even with my spouse or one of my children, that takes a lot of emotional energy, right? I mean, even sitting in online meetings for a whole day, it drains emotional energy for some of us. But then maybe planning and preparing for a big presentation or for making a very important business decision, that requires mental or creative energy. So figuring out what kind of energy I need for the thing that I have to do is very important. Then it is, of course, very important to keep those energy tanks, if you will, refilled or filled up by refilling or replenishing it. For example, some of us to regain, refuel on emotional energy, some of us need to be alone. We need to be by ourselves. And then other people, in order to refill that emotional energy, has to be with other people. So whatever your needs are, you need to figure it out. Because if you only ever use or drain that energy tank but never refill it, you're going to get yourself into trouble. My ultimate point here is, it is my responsibility and mine alone to make sure that I stay balanced in all these different areas of energy. Only I can take care of my emotional, physical, creative, and spiritual energy. Because if I am found lacking in any one of those 4 areas, I will not be able to live with purpose and be effective and actually accomplish the things that I set out to do. Okay, so number 1, get back to your first love. Number 2, keep up the energy. And number 3, I just read it and now I can't remember it. And then my third point is balance is key. The cliche of balance in life. It's actually not a cliche at all. It is a fact. It is an essential truth. Everything in nature, even within our own bodies, is about balance. So balance is not simply a good idea. It is essential to have a good quality life. These things are so obvious, hey? But yet most of us are still not good at it. Balancing work and relaxation, intensity and laughter, eating and physical exercise, being alone and being together with other people, and the list goes on and on. The fact is, we know these things are important. So let's plan to make room for all of these things in our life so that we can live with balance. Something that I find very helpful in trying to remain balanced is to have other hobbies or interests that are totally not connected to my work life. You'll have your own examples of this in your life, but for me, there are 2 things that I'm actually very passionate about. And you know what's funny? Most people who know me, even people who have known me for many years, don't even know these two things about me. Right, are you ready? The two things that I'm so passionate about outside of my work are tennis and cars. There are moments in my life when I actually can't tell 100% for sure which one of music and the human voice, tennis, or cars is actually my biggest passion. That is how much I love these two other things in my life. So I spend a lot of time watching or reading about these two topics from all over the world, from Europe to Asia to Canada to Australia and everywhere in between. I love to stay up to date with what's going on in the world in these two fields. So giving myself permission to watch a tennis match or maybe a car review or a drag race or something during the course of my days really helps me to have some balance in my life. I also play tennis or squash on a regular basis, and I try to go to motoring shows with my dad or my boys as often as I can. These things fill my emotional tank and help me to keep an essential balance in my life. So yeah, these are just 3 simple things to think about. Getting back to your first love, managing your energy levels, and fighting to stay balanced in your life. Now, I say simple, but it is, of course, not so simple. But you and I have to at least try to address areas like these in our lives. We have to keep working on these things so that we can have a peace and joy-filled life, a life that is effective, purposeful, worthwhile. Like I said earlier, we really only have 2 choices. Keep living or start dying. And because the latter is not really an option, we actually only have one choice. Keep living. Your voice matters. Who you are matters. Your place in your family, in your circle of friends, at your work or your school, in your community. All of you matters. Your personality, your energy, your creativity. So give yourself a break sometimes. Make time for yourself. Figure out some of these foundational things that we talked about today so that you can truly live. So yes, my name is Johan Bester, and I'm really glad that you took the time to invest in yourself really today to watch this episode. And just remember that Mommy. So thanks again that you have taken the time today to join me and listen to this chat. I really hope it makes you think about things. And above all, that it'll make you realize again that you are important. Your life is important. You have to take the time. You have to invest in yourself. We have to get on with things. We cannot allow the fact that craziness is going on in the world change us and take away from us the fact that we have a purpose and there's a plan for our life and we have to live it.